despite not having a lot of information about the why of some of these conditions, we do know a lot of the how and the what. And so the underlying mechanism, despite not knowing the cause, we do know what's happening.
Yeah.
And because of that, when it comes to things like rehab or lifestyle, we do have a lot of recommendations on things that can be done for each disease to either get around, circumnavigate some of the problems that are happening, the underlying mechanisms, or to slow them down directly and actually try and address them.
Yeah, it's the beautiful part about modern medicine and the amazing development in like diagnostic tools, like functional MRIs are a fantastic tool that we now know what parts of the brain are having cell death occur in. So it gives us a really good idea. While we might not know the source and like the actual very beginning of why a change started to happen, we know what their effect is on the body specifically, so we can fine tune and tailor our interventions to address those changes as directly as possible.
Exactly. So when it comes to, say, some symptoms, we'll maybe start there. Maybe Parkinson's is a great example where someone will have that freezing gait that Sam was talking about earlier. And we know that because it's dopamine related and it's that gating of the motor output from the motor cortex down through the substantia nigra, if you increase the amount of intention that's there and try and exaggerate that movement signal, it'll have an easier time getting through the substantia nigra, even medication aside. Of course, medication has a big impact, and it's because we know that dopamine is involved. Giving them that supplemental dopamine has a big effect. But even outside that, there are strategies like doing big, large movements, getting in time with rhythm, just seems to help signals get through that substantia nigra. And that's one of those cases where without a therapist having an underlying understanding of these disease processes, they won't know necessarily the strategies to overcome them and get around them.
Yeah. I mean, another really good example is being able to understand the changes between MS and CMT having very, very different causes. So, for example, especially with CMT affecting starting in children, knowing what the changes can be, knowing what they could be as someone starts to get older, we can start to set up our intervention plan to try and prevent them from happening, to maintain mobility across the lifespan. Whereas, the MS, again, they have a little more of a diffuse impact on the brain. We're getting a little bit more symptom specific to what is the most important thing for them at the time.
For example, someone in the early stages of MS often have fatigue as a really major symptom, partly because there's that demyelination happening within the brain. So the brain's constantly communicating with itself. If those signals aren't traveling through as cleanly anymore, it's a lot less efficient. And so it takes a lot more energy just happening in the background. And so fatigue can be a major component, as well as the autoimmune activity that's actually causing that demyelination. The immune cells are very energy hungry. And so they're doing all this extra unhelpful, but still extra work. And that's going to be taking a lot of energy. And so being aware of pacing, not to, just to put it very bluntly, not piss off the immune system more and make it do even more, being very aware of pacing is an important strategy when it comes to MS.
Yeah.
Actually, just to add one more brief mention of medication, it can be really important to know what to avoid as well for certain conditions. So that pacing was one, but also a condition that's not technically neurological, but appears very similar is muscular dystrophy. It affects the muscle directly, so we won't get into that. But in the case, because the muscle is being directly affected, actually exercising really intensely is what we call a contraindication, where it can cause bad effects and cause muscle to break down more rapidly. And so despite what you might do for a lot of conditions, you don't want to push too hard and you actually want to pull back. And so it's very important to be aware of how different pathologies have very different mechanisms and therefore need different rehab strategies.
And like, for example, coming back to the CMT example, like just knowing how, like, while the symptoms are the same, let's say foot drop, that causing factor needs different intervention choices to be able to manage it effectively over the long term.
Yeah. And whether it's coming from like foot drop from peripheral versus central for MS, different strategies are involved there too.
I mean, then we also come back to diseases with specific medication that impacts certain things. So then knowing like what exactly the medication impacts can give you a better understanding of like how to time them, knowing what you can or can't do using the medications. And like for like Parkinson's is just such a great example, because you get, if that's on most Parkinson's medications, there's a window of opportunity where your medication is timed perfectly, that puts your dopamine in an exactly functional window. So just knowing the exact cause, knowing the medication's effects and changes, then you can better plan that around your day.
100%. Like integrating things into your routine in a different way depending on the condition you have. Yeah. Speaking of, like, also lifestyle factors are really important. So because we know that like MS and CMT both have a autoimmune component or a inflammatory component, having lifestyle factors that minimize inflammatory processes or minimize the immune system from being overactive can be really important. So just general exercise, good sleep hygiene, stress mitigation, all these kinds of things have a big role to play as well.
Yeah. Hey everyone, just quickly, could you please double check you've hit that subscribe button? Because it is the best way of supporting the show.
And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that bell icon as well, so YouTube will notify you when we have our new episodes out every week.